Dear Carly and Emily, we've had long talks. We conference call using our cell phones, and we email and text constantly. Mother and daughters sharing the big and small moments of our lives. So you're probably wondering, why is Mom writing us a letter? A real sit-down, pen-to-paper letter. This must be serious. Yes, it is. We laugh a lot together, but I'm writing about one thing that we've shared that isn't funny. It's so rudely interrupted the course of our lives. My breast cancer. And what's terrifying me, more than a recurrence of my cancer, is the thought that either one of you could be diagnosed with it too. I think back on the days following my diagnosis, and it's mostly a blur. I remember being at the radiologist's office for a 6-month follow-up mammogram of a suspicious-looking area. I wasn't especially concerned because I often had uneventful follow-up appointments. But when the radiologist pressed down with the ultrasound wand and I felt that sharp pain, we both knew this appointment was not going to end like the others. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of tests and biopsies. The clock seemed to stop and the days dragged on as we waited for the pathology reports. I was at work when the radiologist called. It was a day full of sunshine and blue skies, just like today. No one should get bad news on a day like this, but that was the day I learned I had breast cancer. I called your dad and could barely tell him the news. We met at home, but I have no memory of that drive. We hugged, we cried, and we promised each other we'd get through this. All I could think about was dying. I was numb with fear 1 minute and crying the next. I'm a healthy woman. I don't smoke. I take long walks. How could this be happening to me, to us? Because my cancer looked especially aggressive, my radiologist suggested Johns Hopkins, a place where cutting-edge cancer research is just across the street from the cancer center, and where the latest techniques are the first course of treatment. Meeting the surgeon calmed me down. My operation would be a lumpectomy instead of the more radical mastectomy. Then I'd see a medical oncologist and a radiation oncologist to talk about my follow-up treatment. We were attacking my cancer. We had a plan. Better yet, we had a team at Johns Hopkins, my team. Now it was time to tell the two of you. Emily, remember how confident Dad and I tried to sound? We told you I'd be in good hands at Hopkins. We had top doctors in place and I'd get great care. I was saying those words, but inside my head, all I could think about was, would I miss your college graduation, your wedding, grandchildren? Carly, we met you at the airport when you returned home after summer working in an orphanage in Brazil. We picked up your bags and I crawled into the back seat of the car with you. How could I tell my little girl that her mom had cancer? We cried, holding on to each other. I'm not sure how Dad made the drive home. I tried to educate myself about my cancer on the internet. That just made me even more upset, and I was more confused. I was headed for the infusion room a few days later. My mom was with me on that first day of treatment, and she casually mentioned to a nurse that my father's mother had died of breast cancer. I knew that, but she went on and mentioned that his grandmother also died of breast cancer, and so had her sister. That was news to me. There was now evidence of an extensive genetic component to my case. My heart sank. I was back to feeling doomed. Sure enough, genetic tests revealed I had one of the 2 mutations related to breast and ovarian cancer that has been identified, BRCA1. I was at very high risk for more breast cancer, and I was in a high-risk category to get ovarian cancer too. Waves of fear came over me. I tried to stay calm, but I thought of the cancer spreading through my body. I envisioned its tentacles replacing the blood in my veins, and I wanted to rip the tumors out of my body. If this was genetic, was I a hopeless case? Would I die soon? How could I put you girls through a terminal illness? I was supposed to be the strong one. I didn't feel strong. I felt diminished and weak. But I was not giving up. Once again, Dad and I met with Dr. Fetting and talked about our options. I had been fortunate my breast cancer was found before it spread to other organs, but with the possibility of cancer coming back within a few years, I might not be so lucky the next time. So rather than having radiation after chemo, I reluctantly decided to complete the chemo and then have a double mastectomy and reconstructive surgery. I'd also need surgery to remove my ovaries. I wanted to live, and I'd do whatever it took to survive. Chemotherapy was the first step. It affected every part of my body, from my bald head to my sore toes. I tried to keep working, but some days I could barely lift my head off the pillow. Our little family unit still laughed and cooked together when we could. We designed some quirky cards to thank people who had been so helpful to us. We even created a brochure to encourage other women with cancer to donate their hair to be made into wigs. Dad, as always, was there with love and support. Emily, I loved how you shopped for comfy chemo clothes, bought eyebrow pencils and other things that helped me continue to look like me. Carly, you and your camera. I wasn't so sure about documenting my ride through Cancerville, but with your keen eye, you tastefully and beautifully photographed the hostile takeover of my body. I was so sick. It took a huge leap of faith to go every other week to submit myself to this ordeal. I felt as close to death as one could be, but I trusted Dr. Fetting's experience and judgment. 8 horrible chemo sessions. I checked them off, one at a time. Then I had the double mastectomy and reconstructive surgeries and had my ovaries removed. 8 more operations. But looking at me now, a stranger would have no idea that underneath these clothes is a human patchwork quilt. The outside is healed. Inside, I will never be the same. I'm not the first person to get hit over the head with a cancer club card and then change my outlook on life. These past 7 years have been hard on all of us. Both of you know that you are at high risk for getting breast or ovarian cancer. There's no erasing that gene I've passed on to both of you, and I feel the guilt of that every day. Knowing that you will be checked frequently for the rest of your lives is of little comfort. I can't bear to think of either one of you going through what I have been through. We can't sit here waiting for cancer to hit us again or wait for a cure. We can't wait for the drug companies or the federal government to rescue us either. They are not committing adequate resources for research on cancer prevention. Dr. Fetting and researchers at Hopkins want to make significant progress in medical research. They've asked us to help them raise money to fund these efforts. Dad and I have met the doctors and scientists at Johns Hopkins who will be designing and supervising this research. Their excitement and commitment is contagious. We as a family are so grateful to Dr. Fetting and the team at Hopkins who helped me survive, and we have such faith in this team that we are committing a large sum of our own money to that research. We have to try and intervene to protect both of you and others from getting this disease. We are determined to do this. We will replace our fear with hope. You deserve a future without cancer. We'll all work on this project together, and we'll celebrate the discoveries together. Dad and I love you very much. Mom.